biomes. The purpose of today's expedition is to travel through these biomes and see how plants and animals have adapted to the climate they live in. Your captain today is Ian.
And then take a seat wherever you like. If you would like
Ifti, inge bang. No, inge bang.
All over the world, people were gathered around television sets and radios. They knew they were witnessing an historic moment of human achievement, broadcast live from the surface of the moon. The world celebrated as the astronauts took their first steps on the moon. But few people would have been aware just how huge an effort it had taken to get them there. These Apollo 11 astronauts were just two of nearly 400,000 people who had worked over 10 years towards this goal. But how did they do it? What did it take to put humans on the moon? Our story starts in the 1950s, when rival superpowers, the Soviet Union and the United States of America, begin competing to build the best spacecraft. Sputnik 1 into orbit. 1 month later, they launched a second satellite, this time with a living passenger, a dog named Laika. Working hard to catch up, the Americans launched their first satellite, Explorer 1, the following year. Within 3 years, they had advanced their technologies enough to successfully launch and return Ham the chimp. But then the Soviets achieved another major triumph. They successfully launched cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin, who became the first human to orbit the Earth. Less than a month later, astronaut Alan Shepard became the first American in space. His successful flight gave America confidence in its space program. Land in the sea was just a small part of the tip of the giant Saturn V. This great project was called Apollo. Once they had a plan, NASA Roger Chaffee and Ed White were conducting a flight rehearsal. Throughout the exercise, there were problems, as communication links between mission control and the capsule systems kept failing. Gus Grissom exclaimed, as part of the rehearsal, the capsule was pressurized by filling it with 100% oxygen. Then, perhaps due to a spark from a faulty wire, the 1969 at Kennedy Space Center, Florida. On the launch pad was the biggest...
Houston, you're go for separation. Roger, we copy.
After 3 days in space, the Apollo 11 astronauts began preparing to slow down. There was nothing Mission Control could do but wait.
Houston, how you ready? Apollo 11, this is Houston. Do you read over? Apollo 11, Houston, do you read? Ready, Roger, reading you the same now.
The calculations were perfect to the second. Apollo 11 was now safely in orbit around the moon. It was now time. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin entered the lunar lander, ready to attempt the first ever moon landing. As they detach, Michael Collins is left alone in the main spacecraft. He knows there is a high likelihood that he will be making the return journey to Earth alone. There are three possible outcomes to their attempt. They will land, they will abort, or they will crash. Back in Mission Control, Flight Director Gene Kranz and his team monitor the progress of the landing craft.
Okay, all flight controllers, go for powered descent. Retro, go. Plato, go. Guys, go. Control, go. Telcom,
Go.
GNC, Ecom, go. Surgeon, go. Capcom, or go for powered descent. Eagle looking great, your go. Okay, go ahead, 3,000 feet.
An alarm sounds. Something is wrong with the computer. Mission Control must quickly decide whether to abort the mission. They choose to continue. Armstrong realizes that they are going to miss the planned landing site and are heading for a boulder field. He takes over control from the landing computer. All those hours of training come into play. Armstrong tries to find a flat landing site,
No level, no level.
but the lander is running out of fuel.
30 seconds.
When the clock gets to zero, they'll have to abort.
30 seconds.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Rocket Point, Tranquility, we copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to be busy for a minute.
Goodbye, back Columbia. He has landed. Tranquility, but his Eagle is at Tranquility, over.
Yeah, there's the whole thing. Fantastic.
They had done it. Every single person in the Apollo program had contributed to this, and they had got there first. Back on Earth, 500 million people watched Neil Armstrong descend the ladder and become the first human to walk on the moon.
That's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind.
Minutes later, Buzz Aldrin joined him on the moon. The two moonwalkers had little time to enjoy the scenery. For the next 2.5 hours, they took photographs, set out experiments, and collected different types of rock and soil to bring home. Apollo 11 revolutionized our relationship. We had taken our first steps to exploring the cosmos. When the three astronauts returned, they were celebrated by a changed world. They returned to Earth as heroes. Politically, the reason for going to the moon, the national ideal that dedication could achieve anything, even take you to the moon, had triumphed. The first astronauts had engineering qualifications and were able to set up scientific experiments. But NASA now realized they needed a trained geologist to identify the most valuable rocks to study and return. On Apollo 17, Harrison Schmitt became the first scientist to walk on the moon. The samples they returned are still giving us insights into the moon today.
There is orange soil. It's orange. Orange.
But on December the 14th, 1972, Gene Cernan left the last footprint on the moon. No one has set foot on the moon since.
2, 1. Ignition. Right away, Houston.
Looking back, it seems incredible that all this was possible so long ago. But why have humans could get to the moon? But only for short visits, making exploration extremely expensive. The challenge, then, is that if we want to explore space, we must first learn how to live in space. Since Apollo, astronauts have remained within low Earth orbit. Small space stations like Mir and Skylab pioneered technologies for living in space. More countries began to develop their own space programs. 15 nations came together to build the International Space Station. On board this science laboratory, astronauts and scientists have been learning how to live in space for long pollutions. Soon, we'll need a new generation of people working together to plan our next great adventure into space. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Are you ready for the next giant leap?
As long as you like having a look around right here, when you're finished, you can just head back on. Coming in, I'm the same. Fantastic.